The genesis behind the idea of Ruckus was my own personal experience as a dad. My son didn't learn to read until he was in 5th grade. And the way he learned to read was by reading Garfield comics. Now, some folks might say that's not that different, but for me it was very different in that I was the president of a major publishing house. And I had no idea that my son was delayed in his reading ability. When I learned, and I learned what he was interested in, I filled his room with Garfield comics. And he spent days, he and I both spent days in his room reading through these great comics because they were bite-sized and he liked the character and he was highly engaged. And that really left a lasting impression on me. Both that I didn't understand what the teacher was talking to me about when I went to talk to her about it. No fault of hers, she was terrific. I just didn't understand the language around it and was embarrassed to ask. And I think I'm probably like a lot of parents in that way. And I didn't know what to do about it. So, you know, I remember my son saying to me, "Dad, reading is what you do, it's not what I do." And it was really a moment in time that I'll never forget, because I knew if this was happening to me, it was probably going to happen to a lot of other people. And Ruckus was my way of helping to make sure that never happened again. The fun thing about a Ruckus interactive storybook is that a child reads for a while. There are little snippets of video. There are interactive activities, which aren't necessarily games because they're in the context of the story and they help to propel the story. Each week, or whenever a parent would like to be pinged, a parent will receive an email. It will have how long a child has read, what titles the child has read, how they're doing in various categories like comprehension, letter recognition, fluency, these basics of the National Core Curriculum Standards. They'll receive tips on how to further engage their child in reading. They'll receive books, not necessarily Ruckus books, but suggestions for other books that they can read. So if their child likes trucks, we'll give them other truck books. It's sort of like a report card on steroids, in that we not only give you a sense of your child's accomplishment, but we also give you very specific suggestions on how you as a parent can engage in the process. You can add your kindergarten teacher's email address with her permission or his permission. You can add a favorite aunt's address. You can add a grandparent's address. And what you're doing essentially is forming a community around that child where everyone knows exactly what the child is doing, interested in the Ruckus Reader. We know that kids will read if they're interested and if they're engaged. Taking my own son as an example, you know, he loved Garfield and he learned to read because he wanted to learn more about Garfield and wanted to enjoy Garfield's adventures. Engagement is really what it's all about in reading. Any great reading teacher will tell you that. So our goal was to duplicate that experience across many different brands, with each brand appealing to a different kind of kid.